conquerors did not believe either. The men of Volantis and Valeria hung Garen in a golden cage, and made mock as he called upon his mother to destroy them. But in the night the waters rose and drowned them, and from that day to this they have not rested. They are down there still beneath the water, they who were once the lords of fire. Their cold breath rises from the murk to make these fogs, and their flesh has turned as stony as their hearts. Hey guys, Kevin here, and today in this video I'm going to talk about Greyscale. First things first, for show watchers hoping that Daenerys wasn't exposed to Greyscale because Jorah touched her only with his unaffected hand, he touched her with both hands as they were fleeing to the middle of the arena. For those thinking she is safe because Targaryens are immune to diseases like Greyscale, the World of Ice and Fire tells us of a Septa Maegel Targaryen, the daughter of Jaehaerys I and a good Queen Alysanne, who nursed children afflicted by Greyscale. She contracted the disease and later died of it. Those thinking that Daenerys is safe because she has to touch the infected part of the skin, again, the evidence doesn't back that up. In the show, we know Shireen contracted Greyscale from a doll, not from touching someone's infected skin. So touching the infected area of someone's skin is not a requisite for contracting the disease. And finally, those thinking that Jorah is safe because Shireen was cured, nothing in the show contradicts what we know about Greyscale in the books. And it's made very clear in the books that it isn't uncommon for children to survive Greyscale, but it is always fatal in adults. The cure was oft seen in children, especially in damp, cold climes. The afflicted flesh stiffened, calcified, and cracked, according to Tyrion in A Dance with Dragons. Dragonstone, where Shireen and Stannis are from, is one such damp climate where Greyscale is common. Another such climate is the Iron Islands, where the damp air tells us that Theon Greyjoy's eldest uncle, Harlan Greyjoy, the firstborn son of Lord Quellan Greyjoy, died of Greyscale. Another damp climate where Greyscale is common is Old Town, where Sam and Gilly are headed. Grand Maester Pycelle tells us of how Old Town reacted to an outbreak of the Grey Plague when he was a boy. I was a boy in Old Town when the Grey Plague took half the city and 3/4 of the citadel. Lord Hightower burned every ship in port, closed the gates, and commanded his guards to slay all those who tried to flee, be they men, women, or babes in arms. To this day, the ignorant in Old Town will spit at the sound of his name, but Quentyn Hightower did what was needed. Though the Grey Plague is a particularly virulent strand of Greyscale, people react to it the same way they react to regular Greyscale, with isolation and often execution. This isn't necessary if the disease is spread only through contact with infected skin, as all you would need to do in that instance is cover the infected persons with layers of clothing. In the show, Jorah explains that the people of Essos send those afflicted with Greyscale to the ruins of Old Valeria. Tyrion replies that it would be kinder simply to kill them and be done with it. In the books, people afflicted with Greyscale in Essos are sent to the Saros, not Old Valeria. In Westeros, both in the Seven Kingdoms and beyond the Wall, they usually kill people afflicted with Greyscale, or isolate them and wait for them to die. This was not done out of mercy. Tyrion explains in A Dance with Dragons that though mortal, Greyscale was supposedly not painful. Most of what we know about Greyscale comes from Tyrion on his voyage through the Saros. He tells us that Greyscale eventually causes blindness. Stone eyes are blind eyes, thought Tyrion. The mortal form of Greyscale began in the extremities he knew. A tingling in a fingertip, a toenail turning black, a loss of feeling. As the numbness crept into the hand, or stole past the foot and up the leg, the flesh stiffened and grew cold, and the victim's skin took a grayish hue, resembling stone. He had heard it said that there were 3 good cures for Greyscale: axe, sword, and cleaver. He goes on to say that removing limbs with Greyscale does not always cure someone of the disease. Hacking off afflicted parts did sometimes stop the spread of the disease, Tyrion knew, but not always. Many a man had sacrificed one arm or foot, only to find the other going gray. Once that happened, hope was gone. Blindness was common when the stone reached the face. In the final stages, the curse turned inward, to muscles, bones, and inner organs. Additionally, Tyrion is told by Half-Maester Haldon that Greyscale can start in the internal organs. You swallowed half the river. You may be going gray even now, turning to stone from the inside out, starting with your heart and lungs. If so, pricking your toes and bathing in vinegar will not save you. Vinegar soaks and baths are treatments for Greyscale. Tyrion also tells us how Greyscale is typically treated in Westeros. Greyscale's progress could be stayed by limes, mustard poultices, and scalding hot baths, the maester said, or by prayer, sacrifice, and fasting, the septons insisted. Then the disease passed, leaving its young victims disfigured but alive. Maesters and septons alike agreed that children marked by Greyscale could never be touched by the rare mortal form of the affliction, nor by its terrible swift cousin, the Grey Plague. Damp is said to be the culprit. In the show, Gilly tells Shireen of her sisters who contracted Greyscale, and how Crashter isolated them and later put them out of their misery. This is consistent with the wildling approach to Greyscale in the books, as seen in Jon Snow's argument with Mance Rayder's sister Val over Shireen. Val informs Jon that the Free Folk refer to Greyscale as the Grey Death, and that the wildling method of dealing with the Grey Death is mercy killing. This naturally leads to an argument between the two, where Princess Val says Shireen is not clean, and refers to her as the dead girl. When Jon exclaims that Shireen is not dead, Val responds by saying she is. Her mother cannot see it, nor you it seems, yet death is there. Martin shows us Jon reassuring himself that Val is wrong, which suggests that Jon sees some truth in her words. This may seem extreme, but there is a magical element to Greyscale that needs to be talked about. Greyscale is often referred to as a curse, and is related to the story of Garen's curse. Garen was a Rhoynish prince that led the Rhoynar in their struggle against the Dragon Lords of Old Valyria. The Rhoynish lost the war, and some traveled to Dorne under Queen Nymeria, for whom Arya's direwolf and one of Oberyn's daughters, Nymeria Sand, are named. Prince Garen himself was captured and cursed the Valyrian conquerors, but the prince, it is said, called down a curse upon the conquerors, entreating the Mother Rhoyne to avenge her children. And so that very night the Rhoyne flooded out of season, and with greater force than was known in living memory. A thick fog full of evil humors fell, and the Valyrian conquerors began to die of Greyscale. This is perhaps the magical origin of Greyscale, but we can't be sure. The ruins of Garen's city are where people severely afflicted with Greyscale are sent to live out their days. These people are known as the Stone Men, and they live north of Volantis in the ruins of the old city of Croyine, though there are rumors of stone men in the ruins of Old Valyria, where they are sent in the show. You don't see stone men in Westeros, and it's not just because they typically kill people inflicted with Greyscale. Greyscale is lethal. Men with stone eyes can't see, and stone organs can't live. So the stone men shouldn't be alive, and they probably aren't. One of the men traveling with Tyrion, Haldan Halfmaester, suggests that someone known as the Shrouded Lord, or the Prince of Sorrows, has the power to choose who gets Greyscale and who doesn't. The Prince of Sorrows does not bestow his grey kiss lightly, he tells Tyrion. His grey kiss. The thought made his skin crawl. Death had lost its terror for Tyrion Lannister, but Greyscale was another matter. The Shrouded Lord is just a legend, he told himself. No more real than the ghost of Land the Clever that some claim haunts Casterly Rock. The Shrouded Lord may control the Stone Men in the same way that the others of the White Walkers control their whites. This is significant because, as I said before, these people should be dead. Tyrion compares the legend of the Shrouded Lord to that of the founder of House Lannister, Land the Clever. This is not the only time that the Lannisters and the Shrouded Lord are lumped together. When Tyrion is pulled out of the water after his encounter with the Stone Men, he describes what he perceives to be a dream of the Shrouded Lord. He dreamt of his Lord Father and the Shrouded Lord. He dreamt that they were one and the same, and when his father wrapped his stone arms around him and bent to give him his grey kiss, he woke with his mouth dry and rusty with the taste of blood, and his heart hammering in his chest. Tyrion describes the Shrouded Lord as a man resembling his father. Some speculate that the Prince of Sorrows is a long-lost Lannister, and that this long-lost Lannister is the reason Tyrion was spared the curse of Greyscale. I hope you found this video helpful or interesting. If you did, like, comment, subscribe, share, check out my other videos. My next video I plan on making is Magic Part 2. Where does magic come from? If you haven't seen Magic Part 1, Which Gods Are Real, go check it out, and I'll have Part 2 up before the end of the year.